Hi, today I want to share with you something that I think is critical in making good decisions, especially about people. We believe in a very specific process in first assessing, getting good insights, good information, good data, and then being able to take that and extrapolate what are the best decisions we can make from that data. Now, there's a couple of key points here. The data has to be good data, validated data. The second point is it needs to be actionable data. And I use that term on purpose. Many climate surveys that organizations run will give you tons of data, big, thick binders of data. But are they really actionable? Is the data something you can do something with, can create a plan, create KPIs? That's why I want to share with you what I believe to be one of the best, most actionable data assessments that we have to use with our clients and have used for many years now. It's called the Vital Signs Assessments. Now, this one I'm going to show you today is called the Team Vital Signs. Did you know that you could measure through an assessment where your team is and what their engagement level is? And what can you do with that? How can you use that data, create good developmental plans for your team, for the individual members of that team? So let me walk you through this assessment at a high level. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because that could take easily an hour or 2 hours. But I want this to be a fairly short video to show you what's possible as you look at how to measure where your teams are today. And what does that mean? What can you do with that? So again, it's the Team Vital Signs. The company that has created it is called 6 Seconds. I am a preferred partner with 6 Seconds and have worked with them for many years. They put out some wonderful assessments, really good data, excellent validations, but data and information that is centered on helping people to prosper, equipping people to prosper, which is what we believe in. Let me walk you through this assessment. This is a sample report based on the input of 9 team members. The first thing we're going to look at is an overall kind of philosophy and the science behind why this assessment, why do we measure these things? We know emotional intelligence is 2 to 4 times more predictive of success than IQ is, or just rational intelligence. That's been proven case study after case study, research after research. There's a flow to this, though. Emotional intelligence, or EQ, is neuroscience. And so there is a science at work here. And there's a flow to how this integrates into teams and organizations. Higher levels of emotional intelligence lead to higher vitality. What is vitality? It's energy, it's motivation. How do we get things done? Do we have the energy and the motivation we need to move forward and to accomplish the goals that we want to accomplish, to overcome challenges, to take advantage of opportunities? From that comes higher levels of engagement. And we've all heard about engagement and how important that is. Engagement is the emotional commitment someone has to the effort, to the team, to the organization. Critical measures here. And out of all of those things, the outcome is performance. If you want higher levels of performance, there is a clear success pathway to get there. So let's look at the assessment and what it will tell us if we were to do it on your team. This will tell you about what's in the report. I'm not going to go through all of that right now. I want to get to the data itself. And what does the data mean? Well, this is the dashboard. Are the different elements that will open our eyes to what's going on in the current reality of our team that we're measuring. The first upper left-hand corner, climate drivers. These are the drivers of success, and there are 5 of them: trust, motivation, teamwork, execution, and change. And change is how change embracing is the team, are the individual team members. In the middle, we have a measurement of engagement, an actual engagement measure. This team is having some serious issues. 89% are disengaged, which is actively moving away. Only 11% are neutral, and nobody's really engaged. This is probably a highly dysfunctional team. We have low measures on the success drivers, the climate drivers. We don't really have any engagement. We actually have disengagement. Think of it as negative engagement, people moving in the wrong direction. And then the outcomes are simply not very high: sustainability, satisfaction, results, and agility. And there's a lot more down here on your dashboard to look at. What I want to focus on is that middle section on the bottom. We can actually identify pulse points. When you take vital signs, you've seen people that will take vital signs by putting their fingers on the pulse to see how is the heart beating. That's exactly what we're talking about here. And we have different pulse points for each of the 5 different success factors. Now, if we can focus in on those, we can have a direct impact on changing the direction of a specific success factor, or what's called a climate driver up here. I use success factor and climate driver interchangeably because I want you to understand that those 5 drivers are what it's going to take to reach the success that the team needs and wants. And we have a lot of additional information here, but I want to show you specifically, and keeping this video short, or as short as possible for me, what are some of these measures really look like? What do they mean? Well, this is based on a model where we're really looking at the 5 drivers. Notice something interesting here. In the very middle is the one driver that touches everything: trust. Trust is the currency of getting things done. That's something I use all the time with people. The less trust you have, the less is going to get done. The more trust you have, the more that will get done. And it touches everything. And then you have the other drivers. And outside this, you have your outcomes. And notice that there's this interesting tension between the people and the organization, and then strategy and operations, or strategy and tactics. This is a wonderful model. It's a very usable model. It's very easy to explain. More important than anything, it gives us a clear visibility into where are the strengths, where are the gap areas, what needs to be changed, and how, and this is the critical part, how do we make those changes? So let's look at, this is the team orientation. What type of a team is this? I'll be happy to explain this in more detail on another video, because this can get pretty deep pretty quick. Here's the engagement and what this engagement means. Notice there's a measure down here that's basically the little white arrows pointing to extremely low engagement. And that's a problem. Low engagement, lower performance, lower output, lower success possibilities. That's a problem. And that needs to change. But we know it. We can measure it. And the beauty of these types of assessments, they're literally vital signs. You can take them multiple times during a year to watch progress. See how the different initiatives that you're putting in place are making a difference. So when we look at the distribution of scores, this is where the different team members fall. Again, more detail on this later, but you can see the measures. This is what I want to show you today, the measures. What are we measuring? What can we measure? What do the measures mean? Well, they give us some really good data and actionable data, something we can really do something with. Notice here is the combined snapshot of what's high or low on each of these measures. The first five are those drivers we talked about, those drivers of success or the climate drivers in the team. Your highest one is teamwork, but motivation, change, very, very low scores. And you'll see that this graph is split into different sections. You have the lowest 25% of teams, which unfortunately, this team falls into that lowest 25% of teams often. You have the middle 50% of teams, and then you have the highest 25% of teams as it relates to the scoring in this assessment. And by the way, this assessment is based on years and years and years of data and has been validated, revalidated, and renormed over time to give us truly accurate and actionable information and insight. And then you can see with the outcomes, there are some outcomes that look pretty good right now. At least they're in the middle range, and a couple that are really low, like results and satisfaction. Here's what I know from experience. If the outcome measures are higher than the success drivers or climate drivers, though 5 drivers there, that's not going to be something that's going to stay that high for very long. You can't outrun your drivers. So if sustainability and agility look good right now, that's not sustainable long-term with the measures of the drivers we're seeing. That's about as deep as I want to go right now with that. But again, the point is to show you what kind of information can you get out of an assessment like this, and what can you do with it? Stop for a minute and think. If you had this kind of data on your teams, what could you do with it? What clarity would it bring? What focus would it bring? And that's where someone like myself, who's a professional certified in these tools, can really help you think through, what does this mean for me, for my team? What else can we look at here? We have actual measures, numerical measures of each of these different drivers and outcomes. We can see the standard deviation, and that's really important. Notice that a standard deviation that is really above 12 to 15 is really high. It means either we're low deviation, which is standard deviation, which is people very close together, or the higher we go, the more they separate. And some people think it's this and other people think it's this. That's disconnect in a team. And that's where dissonance can come from. And it's where dysfunction can come from. And I'll use more of the D words as we go along. But bottom line, these are wonderful measures. And we can work with these. We can set KPIs around these kinds of measures. And that's very helpful. Then we get into the specifics of each different driver and talk about what those look like. And notice that the 3 pulse points for each driver are in here as well. So for trust, transparency, coherence, care, those 3 pulse points, things we can focus in on and do something about, are right there for us to see where are they in this team and as it relates to this specific driver. And then we have motivation, we have teamwork, we have execution, and we have change, or that change embracing attitude that would be helpful in teams. How effectively can they make changes? And that speaks directly to agility in an organization and in a team specifically. How agile is the team? Well, this one isn't very agile. They're not excited about change. And there's probably going to be a lot of resistance to that. But knowing that allows us to help equip this team to become more change embracing, which is critical if we're going to have any kind of competitive advantage in the marketplace. Then we talk about the different outcomes: sustainability, satisfaction, results, agility. And these outcomes will help us to set goals for the future. This is what I mean by actionable data. How will this help us truly understand where we are right now? What is the right path forward, or what I call a success pathway that we can engage our teams with, we can move forward with, and really reach that success that we want to reach in that team. The rest of the report gets into the pulse points, talks about the different pulse points. What do they mean? Where are those measures at right now? And you can see in this case, we have put them in descending order of score. And that's important as well. If we have some specific areas of strength we want to leverage, if we have areas that are huge weaknesses or gaps that we want to strengthen or shore up, they're right here in front of our eyes. We can see them. We can address them. We can talk about them. And let me share something with you that I think is really important. It's one thing to have data, to show it to people. It's an entirely different thing to use this good data in a conversational, ongoing improvement process where we're talking about these things. We're focused on, consider it continuous improvement, that kind of an approach to what we would like to accomplish with this. But you can't do it without good data. And that's what this is all about. You can probably tell I get pretty excited about these assessments. I've used them with many different organizations, and they are truly eye-opening. The rest of the report gives you additional depth. Notice as we go deeper into the report, we get more depth of information. We go deeper and deeper into the measures and what they mean. And then we start to get into good reflection questions, which are just as important. What are we focused on here? Which of these are strengths? How are these strengths being leveraged? On the lowest score side, what is underneath the concerns? Now, this kind of a questioning process is an assessment all in itself and gives you even more context and insight into what's going on in this assessment and with your team. And that's the key. This is your team at work. This is what's happening for them every day. Do we want to change some things? Then let's do that. Do we want to help and equip and move that team forward in specific ways? We have a great compass now to do that. We have comparison by demographics. That's a part of this assessment that can give us some really good information. And then we finish out with different scoring compared to our demographics. Additional questions. By the way, I love the fact that we can add custom questions to this kind of assessment. And even to the point, there is a stop, start, continue, a comment section on this report. It isn't in this report itself. It comes separately, but we can get actual comments from people related to what's going on. We can create custom questions. The more context we have, I think the better off we are. And then none of this means anything if we don't put a plan of action in place. And there is some great science behind this change map that 6 Seconds has created. I've used it. I use it all the time, and it's incredibly helpful. And that's not the only tool that we can bring. There are many different tools available that we can create an action plan that becomes a success pathway. The conclusions, and then, of course, the different types of assessments in this toolkit. There's a leadership vital signs 360. I'll do another video on that. Very effective tool for leaders to see their leadership impact. Truly a 360 with many people participating in that. And there's an organizational vital signs. There is even one for educational institutions. I share this with you today because you don't have to guess. We can assess and know where we need to focus to help you and your teams get where you want to be in the future. I hope you'll reach out to us and let's have a conversation about what these kinds of tools can do for you.